What are you drinking there, Mom?
Coffee.
But with what in it?
What?
But with what in it?
Just cream.
Which one did you use?
Well, I had to use up my, it was like a caramel macchiato one and then put some peppermint in. The Luna Bear's paying the visit.
Wow.
Here comes Logan, not to be outdone.
He said, you can't do anything without me. Wow, we really do look so much alike. Oh my god.
Carrie, isn't it?
What's up, King Cats? Welcome back to my channel. You know who this lady is.
Hello, everyone.
This is my mom. You guys love her. Logan's down here. There's his little nose in the screen. But we're doing a mama bear and baby bear Q&A today, and a Logan bear.
Logan's
apparently.
trying to work his way into the picture too.
Yeah,
There's a
dog there.
Look at that little snooter. Hi, Dad.
I posted a Q&A on Instagram for Mom and I to answer your most burning questions, and we're a power team, so we're just gonna pop right into it. Also, just so everyone's aware, I have a very supportive and loving father. He's just a bit more mysterious.
Don't do that when I'm swallowing, please.
He keeps to himself a bit more. That's where more of my introversion comes from, is Dad. But he is out on the patio right now, just chilling, doing his thing. Without further ado, you ready to answer some questions?
Sure.
All right. Okay, this one was asked in so many different iterations, but I feel like it's really important because, like, I feel like we're on the same page with this. People ask, are we best friends? And I say no, because that's not the job of a mother and daughter. Like, I consider you my friend, but you're my mother.
But I'm your mother.
It's always gonna be different.
Right, it always will be different. There are things you are going to tell girlfriends you would never tell me.
Well, even if, not even just like telling you stuff, because like I pretty much tell you most of everything at this point. There's pretty much no filter anymore, which, better or worse, whatever. But like, I don't know, it's just a different dynamic. Just like how none of my friends could ever be what you are to me.
I will always be your mother.
Yeah.
And you know you can always come to me if you need something or, you know, whatever it happens to be. But I personally think there is a distinct difference between being someone's mother and being their best friend. There's a different authority type associated with a friend versus a parent. But, you know, granted that blurs and disappears as you get older and you become your own mature adult. But as a child, no.
Right.
Your parents are there to guide you and discipline you when needed, to provide those boundaries, which a friend is not going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And that doesn't mean we have like we obviously have a great relationship, but it's like, it's just a different kind of relationship.
It's a mature mother-daughter relationship versus a best friend relationship.
Right. And another very commonly asked question is, have we always been this tight?
Well, I think part of the issue is when you're younger and you have that parent-child relationship, the parent is more of that disciplinarian, the one who provides guidance, who sets the rules down and makes you follow them. So any child, as they're growing, gets to a point in their life where they start to push boundaries.
Right.
And that's normal. You want your children to grow, and you want to be able to provide those boundaries to them, and to do so in a way that lets them learn and grow, but at the same time keeps them safe. And any parent will tell you that's when the clashes start with the kids, is when they start pushing those boundaries.
Well, and like a couple things too. For one, there's so many things when I was younger that I was like, I can't believe she would say that, or tell me to do that, or tell me not to do that, or whatever. And now that I'm older, I'm like, she was right. If I had $1 for every time I thought or said, my parents were actually right about this, I would have no money. And
what they say, as you get older, your parents get smarter.
Yeah.
Because you suddenly realize what they were trying to tell you and why they were trying to tell you that. And it's just something that comes with age. I can't go and tell a 6-year-old this and have them believe it. They just have to come on it for themselves.
Right. And that's one thing that they always did, both my mom and my dad did a really good job of, is like serving as like the guide and the parent and all this stuff, but also like letting my sister and I learn stuff the hard way that needed to be learned the hard way. Like never putting us in danger by any means, but just like, you didn't helicopter us.
It's hard to let your children experience disappointment. It's real hard as a parent to watch that. I can see where some parents do become the helicopter parents because they want their children to have those good feelings, to be successful, but at the same time, life isn't always going to be fair to you.
And also, with us, we're very similar.
Scary. Yeah, true.
And so when I was younger, it was a lot of this.
You tend to clash more with the person you're more like.
So honestly, like, I wouldn't say we were super close until I had kind of like flown the coop kind of a thing. Like, we used to get into a lot of arguments when I was little. Like, a lot of it was around like the messiness of my room, for being 100% honest.
I'll be honest, I wouldn't say it was a constant issue.
Right.
I mean, I have known kids that fight with their parents and have terrible relationships with their parents, and I wouldn't say we were ever that. It's just the fact that...
But like when we would, it was like because we're both so like... We're both very strong personalities. We're both very... for better, for worse, and I like think what makes us good at like what we've done respectively is we're very stubborn. And we're like firm.
And you know, it's little things sometimes, like you joke about the cleaning of the room.
It was so bad, I'm so sorry. All right, this one's a wholesome question. What is my favorite quality about you and your favorite quality about me?
Oh boy.
I can go first.
Okay.
You're just a fighter. Like, you went through cancer, you have a master's degree, you had 2 kids without an epidural, you have 2 hip replacements, you bossed at your job in like a male-dominated field, and like, I think that's where a lot of my drive comes from. Wasn't necessarily like outright like spoken by you, but just like the example you led by. You've always held yourself to a very high standard, and like also held the people around you to a high standard, like whether you realize it or not. And so like I have that now too. So like I hold myself, and I think part of that is just like from the environment that I grew up in. Like you, and I mean, oh, we're gonna get emotional fast. Like when I was going through all my stuff, like she was one of the like only people that I could relate to and like ask how you got through it, because like she got through cancer treatment, like, and she had to be on medication that she didn't want to be on for years, and like it like did things physically that like she had no control over. So like she was one of the only people that I could be like, how did you get through this kind of a thing? And so
Thank you, dear.
that's my fighter of a mama.
Well, it's like anything, as they tell you, you take one day at a time. You know.
Yeah.
As for you, I would say, wow, this is, you know, like I said, I was going to sit there and say too, your drive and determination.
We are the same.
But I think one of the things that I have seen through the work you have done with your clients is your compassion in dealing with people, or the fact that she's always making food for her sister and brother-in-law. I'd go up there and they'll say, oh, Emily made this for us for dinner last night, and there was just so much left that we ended up having it again.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, you're expressing that love for people in many different ways. You know, for some people you're doing it through food, others it's the compassion you bring to your job about the coaching and helping people through these things. Many of you probably have heard her say that she's done some of the stuff in the car when she's going back to her clients. Obviously I'm sitting right there, I hear what she says, but what I hear coming across is the caring that you have for them, and the fact that you want to help them be the very best people that they can be. Yeah. And that's what your focus is.
I appreciate that. That's also very good that you said that, because like I come off like very intense, like, and that's just how I am. But I think like a lot of times my intensity can like overshadow the fact that I am just like a genuinely caring and kind person, like to people that don't know me, if that makes sense.
Well,
so,
and
like,
I've heard you say to people, you're not disappointing me.
Right.
And, you know, and I think people do feel that way because there is well, they see you and they know there's an intensity about you. But as I said, I would say it's more the compassion that you want them to help be the best they can be.
Oh, I love that. Okay, someone asked me, kind of similar, like what are the main traits that I obviously get directly from you? I would say the work ethic thing, definitely. My like assertiveness, I feel like largely comes from you. Like you're just very direct. I would like, I use you as inspiration for this, but like your level of, like I'm a pretty organized person, but like your just complete level of organization, and like all your ducks are in a row. They know exactly where they're going. Like she's an incredibly organized individual, like very. And also just like, you just make people feel good to be around. And I try and be like that. Like, we're like the host for our family holidays and like all this stuff, and like I think it's something that our family genuinely looks forward to, and like a lot of that is just because of like your energy kind of a thing. I get a lot of my fashion prowess from you. I would always, oh my gosh, when I was in high school, she would get so mad at me. I would always like go in her jewelry closet.
Oh yeah. I have a lot of unmatched earrings nowadays because they never found their way back.
And I would just like borrow things, but like seeing
the
her.
The good stuff was always locked away from her.
Yeah, I wasn't wearing any of her like really fancy stuff. But yeah, like a lot of my, like something that people say about me often is that I like carry myself with like a lot of class and graciousness, but like confidence at the same time. And so I think like a lot of that like comes from you too, just because like you just have like that air about you, which can be really intimidating. I'm curious, did you get told you were intimidating a lot in your profession, or just like by your friends or like anyone?
It was maybe just a little bit more professionally, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, what are you?
I am an ENTJ.
Okay, so yeah, I'm an INFJ.
It's, if I recall correctly, the ENTJ is very unusual for females, and it even says in the description, can be very intimidating towards other females. So I always thought that was interesting when I saw that, because it's like, yeah.
You're like, I get that all the time. And why do you think people feel that way about women more so than they do about men?
Because those are qualities they tend to like in men, to be more assertive, aggressive, you know,
go-getter type,
have things under control, and unfortunately that's not traits that they normally like will attribute positively towards women. And we know there's even, you hate to say it, even to this day, there's still some degree of that double standard that the trait's admired in a man, but it's not in a woman. It's a negative for a woman, which is still very sad. I think as the generations come up, as you have a parent, you know, a mother who was working, as more of these young people are, I'm hoping to see those types of stereotypes just disappear with time, as they realize that, you know, there is no difference. You have, you know, intelligence in either sex. It has nothing to do with sex. Intelligence is resident in the person.
Yeah. Give her a mic. I love that. Oh, somebody asked me, oh, they asked us both. Or actually, no, it's different. Okay, so the first part is, so I'm Baby Bear, my greatest hope for Mama Bear. I think my greatest hope for you is that you fully know just like how awesome of a person you are.
Well, thank you.
Like, I think about it often now, especially that I'm older, but like, I just have, like, both you and Dad, I just have like really great parents. And like, I mean, I deal with people all the time that like don't see how great they are, whether it's my friends, whether it's my clients, whatever it is. And I'm like, I see so much in you, and just like how much you've overcome, how much you've accomplished, like what you've been to Elise and I. And I'm like, I just hope you know that about yourself. Like, that you rock.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. All right, and then what is your biggest worry for me?
Your biggest worry for you? Wow.
I'm curious about this one.
I think what most parents, more than anything, wants is for their children to be happy. And happiness is not a goal. Happiness is, you know, is the life that you lead. So I want you to be able to find happiness. And so that is, like I said, that would be my biggest worry, is that you don't find that happiness in your life, whatever it happens to be, and that you are content with the decisions that you make.
I like that. A lot, like, I'm gonna try and like lump a couple of questions together, but a lot of people want to know how you feel about me competing in bodybuilding, and like maybe how you felt about it initially versus how you feel about it now. Like, was it weird to you at first? Like, were you like, what is going on?
Let me tell you, it feels weird for a parent to see any child up on the stage, okay? I mean,
even after being in dance.
After all the dance. And I think obviously the biggest issue with a parent, and especially having a daughter, is the skimpiness of the bikinis that you are wearing. I mean, you know, you sit there and think, oh my gosh, that's not just any girl up there, that's my daughter, and that's what she's wearing.
Right.
And you want to run up there and throw something around them and say, no, we never really did that. But I think that was probably the hardest thing, was getting used to and they do treat it very professionally.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think when you don't know that and you've never seen it, you're like, oh God, what's happening?
Well, like, and they're the judges and everything, and really the audience, I've noticed, has been just, you know, very respectful to whether it's the male or female competitors that are up there.
Yeah.
So becoming involved with it and seeing it from that point of view, then, it's, no different than, a dance competition, that the kids would do. It's just obviously, it's just something different as far as dealing with the bodybuilding.
Right. And I think they've definitely also like gotten a lot better about just like really hammering down on competitors. Like, make sure you are tasteful on stage, because it's like, it is considered like a family event. Like, there's people's kids there, there's like all this stuff. But
yeah, and kudos to those moms that get up there and lose that weight again and get out there when they've got 2 or 3 kids in the audience. Like, I'm a fan.
Queen.
It's amazing.
Cheers to y'all. I know these are very delicate glasses. And like, not necessarily. Okay, well, no, this one was a similar one. Because like, I refer to you as my stage mom all the time. And you could like tie in like dance experience, but like more so with competing. What's the hardest part about being a stage mom, and what's the most fun part about being a stage mom?
The hardest part is when they're coming up to something that's difficult for them to do. You tighten up because you just want to just will all of that energy to them so that they can do it, do a good job. And so, that is the hardest thing is you tense up when they're up there because you just want so much for everything to go well.
Yeah.
So, but that is, and I mean, that's with anything, if you were in a dance routine and you had to do like a triple turn, and, I would do the same thing. I would tense up knowing that's what you're going to be doing next, or, a particular move with the kick, it would be like, okay, fine, is it all there? But I think it's the same thing with the bodybuilding, because I want you to be able to do the best that you can with what you're doing up there.
Yeah. What's your favorite part?
Favorite part is watching you glow up there on stage.
I'm gonna cry again.
Well, and some people don't always come across as they look like they're very comfortable up there.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell when the audience is watching those that just aren't quite comfortable with it yet. And maybe they never will be. Yeah. But you come up there and you just have this lovely glow about you and a confidence about you that it's so neat to be able to see.
That I think I've told you guys this before, and like we've talked about it, but one thing that I will never ever forget is like we talked about, like when I first told him, I was like, hey, I'm gonna do this bodybuilding thing. They were both kind of like, well, okay. And then my first show, I got off stage, and like, again, I will never forget this. She looked at me and she goes, I get it now, like, you look like you belong up there. And like, I think about that all the time, because like hearing that from your mom that like only wants the best for you, and like also like is just proud of you, like there's nothing that compares like to that at all. And like, I do what I do for me, like, and nobody else, but like if I didn't have the support of you guys, it'd be so much harder. And I think that's like something that a lot of people struggle with, is when, whether it's their family or their friends, don't support what they're doing. And like, a lot of times it does take them doing it for the first time for the people in their life to see like, oh, this is what this is. Whereas like, while they're leading up to that first time, they might like heckle them, they might like tease them, make fun of them, they might be like,
my mother kept trying to get her to eat food all the time. I had
that was just our whole life.
Well, I said, Mom, stop. Emily knows what she needs to eat.
Do you want a cookie? Do you want this?
Yes, and I mean, I tried to explain to her, but I just finally tell her, stop. Emily knows what she needs to be eating. Right. So, and she always does try and plan it so either she can have a cheat day on a day we're having a family event, or obviously by the time Thanksgiving is around, you're no longer competing, so you can enjoy those times with the family. But, it's difficult. I mean, some people, they just constantly, I grew up in an age where they always kept trying to feed you.
Okay. How was it watching Em battle her health issues with her implants as a mom?
That was a nightmare.
You can be very honest.
I mean, knowing how much she was exercising, how much she was watching what she ate, but watching her to continue to put on weight and have no idea what guidance to give her, what to tell her to do, it was heartbreaking as a parent. Yeah. Because I had no idea what it was, and it wasn't until you found that one doctor. Yeah. It was like, thank goodness for him. Yeah. But
shout out Dr. Serrano.
Yes.
You're the best.
It was like, wow, that's probably some of the best money you ever spent.
For real.
But it was heartbreaking because you have no idea what to say to them to help them, because I couldn't say, well, Emily, you should be going to the gym more, you should be eating less. I knew that wasn't the case.
Right. And it's also like, you know that I know what I'm doing.
Right. And I know that you knew what you looked like too.
Right.
So yes, because I'd seen her get to that extremely lean face. So it's not like it's not like she didn't know what she was doing. So
Right.
it was very hard and frustrating. It's like any parent who has a child with a health condition that they can't seem to diagnose what's wrong. It's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, it was tough. But like I said before, you were one of the best people to have just be there for me. Like I have a text saved on my phone from literally 2017 where I was just like asking her for like advice. I think it was when somebody had like made a crappy comment on social media about like how I looked and all this stuff, and it was just like really weighing on me. And like that was when you like gave me your anecdote about like when you were going through cancer treatment and like you had no control over like what would happen from tamoxifen, and like you had to be on it and like all this stuff. And if you don't want me to include like specific drugs that you were on, like
No, tamoxifen is a very well-known drug for
Yeah.
breast cancer, post-surgeries and everything.
Yeah,
So-
but like that made her gain weight, and she had to be on it for years. Like she had no choice, and that.
But at the time, keep in mind, they weren't saying that it made you gain
of course
weight.
they're not.
But the people I knew that took it said immediately they would put on about 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So you couple that with the desk job and somebody who's no longer in their 20s. And so it was just very frustrating to try and have to deal with all of that and, you know, not be able to do much about it. So it was mainly
Right.
trying to maintain the status quo till hopefully, you know, 5 years later I could stop taking the pills.
Was it ever hard for you to feel that way? Like, did you ever struggle with like a guilt thing where you were like, I should just be grateful that I was able to overcome cancer. Like I shouldn't feel bad about this.
No,
or did you allow yourself to feel what you needed to feel?
I think it was, I knew it was something that was not my fault.
Yeah.
I figured that, okay, fine, you know, deal with the 5 years you have to take this drug and then move forward from there. Continue to do things, just don't stop. Don't just give up and
Yeah.
not do anything. It was continue to try and do things, you know, I would take aerobics classes, you know, and dance classes, you know, all of this stuff, walk the dogs. Just continue to try and work at it, and, you know, eventually then down the road I knew could hopefully then deal with
Yeah.
the rest of it once I could stop taking pills.
And I think that speaks to like the lifestyle component of fitness. Like if you only exercised to look a certain way, you wouldn't have exercised at that time because you didn't look a certain way.
No.
So like part of it is just basic self-care. Part of it's like the actual act of exercising helped you feel good.
Right.
Like, and it just helps you keep up that way of life. Cause like you grew up being active with dance and stuff too. So you'd probably have been even more just like psychologically miserable if you hadn't done anything.
Right. And I think that's important because I always felt that exercise was important to you. You know, whether it's, you know, you take the dog on the walk for a mile, whatever it happens to be, to get out there and at least keep the body moving. I think I read somewhere that one of the best thing to stave off, you know, things like the brain deterioration as people get older is through exercise.
Yeah.
You know,
I can see it. Yeah.
so keep it up.
Shifting gears a little bit, we'll go with the last two because those are the most poignant. What do you think of my exes?
There's an old saying. You gotta kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince. Okay? That's...
Oh man. What was it like for you? Because it was obvious enough that it was obvious to you and Dad without actually seeing any kind of like altercation or anything like that, just like the dynamic.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of it is, yeah, you, as a parent, you do have to take that step back. Okay. I can tell, you know, a parent can tell any child, you know, don't let someone treat you like this. You know, don't let them do these, you know, these sort of things to you. And yes, it is hard when you see some of that stuff. I think the only thing you can do is try to gently start that dialogue with your child. Don't come out in an attack mode and say, well, I saw he did this to you, or whatever it is. It's to start quietly with a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, go for that walk so you don't have to look at each other. People joke about having a conversation in the car because you normally don't look at each other. They're driving.
Yeah.
And people joke, but that is sometimes the way parents will start conversations.
Yeah.
You know, taking a walk. And I think sometimes we would kind of bring some stuff up taking a walk.
Yeah.
Even
Just like asking like, how is this?
Yeah.
And like, how are you doing?
Or, you know, honey, how did you feel when, you know, he kind of reacted this way to you?
Everybody goes through different things.
Yeah.
Like,
And, you know, you can see that with people, and you just think, well, you can only help them and listen to them if they want to talk about things. Now, granted, we're not talking abusive situations here. That's a
completely
whole different ballgame.
that's out of our scope.
This is just, you know, two people as possibly their relationship changes and they start to grow apart, and you start to see those little subtle signs that say, not as close as what they used to be. Things aren't quite the same. It's just find some ways to bring it up and talk about, like you said, how's things going with this, and work through that dialogue. It's never easy. Like I said, abuse is a whole different story.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a question that anybody asked, but now I want to ask it because I just thought of it. What, as somebody that knows me very well and has known me from the jump, what traits do you think, if it is in the cards for me to have a husband, they will need to have and should not have?
Well, they obviously can't be controlling.
Yeah, that's not gonna fly.
You have a very strong personality. Any relationship is give and take, which means you have to be able to give some too. It's not all one-sided. But I think an openness, be willing to communicate, to be supportive, but to not feel like I'm responsible for her happiness. That you're not responsible for somebody else's happiness. Everybody is responsible for their own.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, they have to be comfortable within themselves.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have, and no one can have a relationship if there's not trust.
Right.
If there's not the feeling that, you know, I'm a good person too.
Yeah.
You know, there's an equalness between the two.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you need to find someone like yourself.
Yeah, I don't necessarily.
But
feel like
not
that
either someone who's completely opposite of you, because that sometimes works for a while, but then usually the clashing does truly start. So, I mean, just somebody who is open and, you know, willing to give and take. So.
Yeah. And I think, like, you and Dad have set a really good example of that, because, like, you're a very strong female, which is more of, like, the anomaly kind of a thing, but, like, you've also both just allowed yourselves to be yourselves, if that makes sense. Like, you each have your own things that you do.
Right.
Like, he's never really, like, tried to, at least, like, what I saw growing up, he, like, never tried to diminish you or, like, take away from your career, and, like, you never did that to him, and, like, all that. Like, you allowed yourselves to do your thing. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's hard for me to find, and, like, I don't mean this in, like, a self-aggrandizing way, but, like, somebody that supports what I do and isn't threatened by it.
Right.
Because, like, I mean, especially with, like, the social media stuff, that can be very overwhelming for a person if they don't do the same thing. Like, oh wow, she's got, like, X amount of eyeballs on her all the time, and, like, it can be very weird for to see somebody share so much of their life and, like, have kind of part of their career shaped around that. And
so, you know, there's I said I never really have thought about it too much, so, you know, it's kind of hard to sit there and say that. I mean, just it's a willingness to share, an openness, a willingness to accept what the person does. I mean, like I said, it works both ways.
What traits do you think I get from you, and then what traits do you think I get from Dad?
Okay, well, I think you pretty much covered so many of them. You know, the drive and the ability to try and stick with something and see it through. I think you get maybe a lot of your lighter side from your dad. I'm a very serious person. Yeah. And so I think you get a little bit more of that lighthearted side from your dad.
I think I get a good balance of them. But you're also really funny when you're really funny.
Should we talk about the
So I was literally about to say, because somebody asked, like, some of our top 5 funniest moments. Oh my god.
You got.
Do you want to tell this story?
Okay. So last week we were driving all the way back from St. Louis, which from, you know, Dayton, Ohio, is a 6-hour drive.
After hitting traffic.
Well, no, it was 7 hours after hitting traffic, because as you go from, you know, west or east on 70 from Indianapolis, there's just all the construction. That was a nightmare. So, of course, you know, we're a little bit tired because it's been a long weekend. And as you come through Dayton, there is what's called Huffman Dam. And we were driving right by that, and Emily just looks at me and she said something about, is that Hoover Dam?
No, it's not Hoover Dam.
And I'm going, no, Emily, I think that's a little farther west of here. Hoffman Hoover, okay.
And it was probably one of those things that was way funnier to us because we were so tired. We were so tired of being in the car, but we both just lost it. Yeah. Because the Hoover Dam is massive.
Massive, yes.
What did we think it was? Like 10 times the size of the
it's probably more than 10 times. I mean, shoot, for heaven's sakes. I don't know the comparison.
So we were driving back today and we, like, passed by the same exit. I was like, oh dang it, did I miss the Hoover Dam this time?
Those are the moments. You hate to say this, but when you're in a family, it's not necessarily the really big things that you think that everybody's going to remember. it's the little things that you look back and you laugh on, and you remember for years and years and years. They never die.
Yep, it's like the long highway story.
Yeah.
It's the, we'll tell this one next, because I cheated and I asked her this one in the car because I wanted to know her answer beforehand. But one of you asked at what age she knew that I was a competitive person. So just full story, just
okay, full story.
No filter.
Okay,
this is a great
Emily
story.
was obviously an infant in this story.
Yes.
And her sister is 3 years older than she is. So they were at the in-laws' house, and Emily, being the infant that she was walking because she wasn't a newborn.
And like I could obviously say some words.
Oh yes, quite a few words. But anyway, so she had a very filled diaper. So her sister was just, Emily, you stink, you smell. So her grandmother picks her up, takes her to the back room and changes her. Emily comes out of the back room, sticks her butt in her sister's face and says, well, smell me now.
You're gonna give me a criticism? I'm gonna come right back and I'm gonna be better. You're gonna know it.
Yep.
I was probably what, like 2?
No, probably about a year and a half, because by 2 you probably were potty trained. But yeah.
Oh, then I was really just, couldn't tell me anything. Also, nobody asked this, but what was my childhood nickname growing up and why did you call me that?
Was it Bruiser? She was a tough little kid. Look, you've seen her now in her competition. Okay.
So this really has been a lifelong thing.
When Emily was born, and the first time she was taken to the pediatrician, he said, oh my gosh, look at those thighs. Big thighs. So, you know,
we got some
yeah, unfortunately, yeah, dance does that to you too. But anyway, so it was just kind of one of those things. I'm not saying she was chunky as a child, but she was fairly solid for a little kid. And so we would just always joke about the fact that she was just a bruiser.
And like, I was just I think Elise has always been like, both in terms of demeanor and like physicality, just a gentler person. And I am just rougher. We might both be Tauruses, but I am the bull. Like, in the china shop, in anywhere, like, I will just...
But yeah, pretty young. She was, tend to be very independent about things.
Yep. Very sad question, but someone said, my mom says she finds my muscles disgusting. What are your thoughts on Em's physique? And maybe do you have some advice for this person with her mom not liking her muscles?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm envious, I don't see anything wrong with women having muscles. So I really don't have any issues with yours. I mean, I think you need to have a strong body. Everybody does. I mean, you hold to maintain that whole skeletal structure needs to be strong. That's why so many people, as they get older, they don't have that strong skeletal structure. And you start seeing, that the posture goes, everything goes, and you need to maintain that, as we talked about before, for your entire life. Geez, I really don't know what, at this point in time, what you would say to your mother, other than to be able to sit down and explain why this is so important to you.
Right.
And I don't know what your reasons could possibly be that to help you explain it any better. But to be able to say, I'm trying to be the best I can with this, and to work now with starting to maintain a good body tone and muscle tone and everything, so that I don't have problems. Yeah, so that you can age well. And I know you can't use this as an example, but one of the ladies I used to know at one of the gyms, hadn't seen her for a while. She would work at the front desk, and I came back one day, and this woman could hardly move. And she had been in a horrendous automobile accident. And her doctors flat out told her that if she had not been in such good shape, she probably would have died. It would have killed her. Yeah. So it's important to maintain that strong body. You hate to say it, these things happen. Right. And having that, that strong skeletal structure and the surrounding support structure will help your body in so many situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even just having the conversation of, because like I have to deal with like, not necessarily this exact conversation with clients all the time, but like just general lack of support from family, is like kind of just addressing that, like, hey, you don't necessarily have to understand what I do or want to do it yourself, or like you don't have to want to look like this yourself, but like this is something that I am choosing as an adult that can make their own decisions. And like I want to spend time with you, but like if all you're gonna do when I'm around you is demean me or degrade me or talk about how you don't like my muscles or how I look or what I do or whatever it is, that like makes me not want to be around you. And I think like that realization potentially as a parent could be like, oh, I want my kid around. So while I don't understand it, I can at least respect them.
And that is a sad thing about some parents. They, excuse me, they don't always realize how they push their children away when we always talk about all these old sayings. I had heard once years ago that, you know, you always disappoint your parents. And I know that a lot of that comes from the fact, it's rather a flippant comment, but your parents do have extremely high hopes for you. They want to see you happy. They want to see you successful. Yeah. And if they see you struggling with something, it's hard for them. And they want to maybe help to change things around. And, you know, what you're doing, I told her I could if I really, really had to.
Right.
My passion is not there, though.
Right.
So, you know, but I try and understand that this is what she wants to do. But like you said, to talk to a parent about that or somebody who is not supportive, you hate to say it, but sometimes you will have to just remove yourself from the situation. Yeah. You need to, you know, remove yourself from the negativity. Yeah. But try as much as you can to explain why it's important and why you do it, and take it from there.
We'll start to wrap this one up. So piggybacking off of that, people are very interested in your fitness routine because I talk about all the time how active you are. But like in all seriousness, because people only see like what I do, right? Which like not everybody watching this wants to do what I do. So what do you enjoy on the fitness side of things? And like just what are your tips for living a healthy life? Because I would say you're probably at one of the best levels of fitness you could be at for where you are in life.
Okay.
So
you want to know what I do, huh? Well, since many of you already know, I've had, you know, both hips replaced. So there are a lot of exercises I do that help to work that mobility in the hips, and took years and years of Pilates. So
she has the strongest core, even with missing an abdominal muscle.
Well, that's true because of the reconstructive surgery from breast cancer. It was an old surgery where they removed one of the, I think it's the transverse abdominal muscle to create a blood supply for the tissue. So yes, it's missing. So I can tell when I do certain things that's not there. But so I'll start off the morning usually doing about 50 minutes worth of Pilates and various exercises. Some of them are to help strengthen the leg that I broke, you know, those types of things. And I'll do about 20 minutes of just stretching kind of things. I kind of combine it with a little bit of Pilates on an inversion table. Walk the dog for over 4 miles. Almost every day I get, you know.
And it's not like a leisurely walk. Like she's booking it. There have been times when I've tried to go with her, and like I'm fairly cardiovascularly conditioned, and I'm like, like she goes.
But you know, it's something that I've worked up to. So my husband jokes about the fact that I'll go out in almost all type of weather, which is pretty true. I avoid the snow and the ice. That's where I broke my leg, and so if it's raining and thundering, I tend not to go out. I do have limits. They're there. Dance classes. I think, you know, Emily's always told you. I have been taking, you know, dance classes for years. Kind of got away from it for about 10 years. Came back a couple years ago. So we'll see what the fall brings as far as how many I can take, because it's hard to find adult classes. I'm swimming in the summertime. Go up to the pool and swim laps for about an hour. Just as there was Clint Eastwood did an interview with somebody. I just happened to catch it on the phone one day, and somebody asked him, a young man asked him about, well, how do you deal with this aging? He goes, I don't let the old man in. And the man actually wrote a song about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I thought about that comment, and it's like, yeah, no matter where you are, you got to work to try and continue to stay active. You know, that, to me, that's the thought behind you don't let the old man in, you don't let the old person in. Don't use your age as an excuse to stop doing anything. You know, even I wish I could have gotten my mother up and doing more than what she would. She just, you know, just didn't want to. That's okay, that's fine.
And I think that's a big motivator for both of us.
Yeah, part of it is, like I said, you just keep going. Don't use age as that excuse. Granted, if you've gone through some sort of surgery and injury, do let yourself heal before you do things.
And like you may have to scale things differently.
Definitely scale them back, but continue to try and do something.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's always something you can do.
Yep.
All right, last thing, one piece of life advice for people watching, for just living your best life.
Living your best life, okay, fine. All right. anytime you feel like you're in a difficult situation, you realize that it will hopefully only last a short period of time. There are many good times ahead of you. Don't take that one setback and let it define your whole life. You take it one day at a time, and you move forward to that point where you put that negativity, whatever it is, behind you.
Failure is feedback.
Yeah, it is. And as they say, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. And I told her sister one time, you learn something from every situation. Sometimes you learn how you don't want to react or how you don't want to be just as much as you do the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was great. All right, well, thanks for doing this Q&A with me, Mom.
You're welcome, dear.
If you guys enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ding the bell so you never miss a video. And if you want more Mama Dunk vids on the channel, let us know. But that's it from us. We love ya.
Okay, take care.